Sometimes when it feels that life is breaking you down, help will come to you in the most unexpected ways. The person who submitted this wants to be anonymous, so let's call her Maria. Maria was a single mom that had recently lost her job. With her losing her job, this meant that she lost her health insurance. She had a daughter that was about 5 years old that was extremely sick. No health insurance, sick child was not a good combination. For months, she tried everything she possibly could to get another job, but nobody would hire her. Nobody would call her back. She couldn't even get an interview. She got to a point where she literally wasn't even sure where they were going to get their next meal from. Her daughter just continued to get sicker and sicker because she wasn't getting the right amount of medication that she needed. One day, Maria reached her breaking point. She left her daughter with the neighbors and she went out on foot, looking for anyone that could possibly hire her, any help, calling friends, calling neighbors, trying to get a loan, like anything she possibly could to try to like make some sort of money, but no one would help her. As she's about to have a complete mental breakdown, she gets to this playground area. There was like a bench right in the front. She sits down at this bench and she just sits there and she cries and she prays and she just completely like lets it all out. As she has her head down, she's crying uncontrollably. Somebody taps her shoulder. She looks up and she sees a little boy standing there. He couldn't be any older than like 10 years old. He puts his hand out and hands her $100 bill and tells her, "Here, you need this more than I do." Maria's confused because first off, there's this random little boy handing her $100 bill, and second, like how on earth could he have known like all of her like financial issues that she was going through? Before she even has a chance to like say no, the little boy puts the money in her hand and like walks away, and then he's just like gone. The $100 bill was just enough to get her daughter to the hospital and to pay for the first dose of the medicine that her daughter needed, and it also covered dinner for that night. After her encounter with the little boy, Maria noticed that her luck completely changed. She started getting callbacks from jobs. People were willing to hire her. She actually ended up getting a really good job, to the point where she wasn't struggling anymore. Once she had enough money, she grabbed a $100 bill and went back to that park, hoping to run across that same little boy. She sat there for hours and never once did that little boy come anywhere near her. She even asked people like in the area, like, "Hey, this little boy that looks like this came up to me, like, do you know where he is? Like, do you know where he lives?" No one knew. No one recognized this little boy. Till this day, she has never come across that little boy since. But till this day, she keeps a $100 bill in her wallet, hoping to pass on the blessing to whomever may need it.
Y'all are not gonna believe what happened last night. All right, now a lot of y'all don't know that I work at a hospital during the night, and so I ended up picking up in the float pool, and I got pulled to a different unit to sit instead of tech, right? So I'm sitting with this woman, and mentally she's having a really hard time. And so when she first got there, you know, everything was set up for her. She sits down, they hook her up to an IV, and she had to use the bathroom. So I take her to the bathroom, I follow behind her with the IV. She gets back to the bed. She wants it completely dark, right? I turn off all the lights and I'm sitting. And so while I'm sitting there and I'm scrolling through my phone, I look up because I feel movement, right? And I can see movement. And so I look up and she's standing straight up. Her hair is dark and she scared the crap out of me, right? I already don't like sitting in the dark. So I then turn around and she lays down. She's having a hard time getting to sleep. Finally, she stops moving so much. So I'm like, okay, she fell to sleep. She's over there and I hear her in a hushed tone saying something under her breath. She's Middle Eastern. So I'm like, okay, she must be praying in her language. Maybe she isn't sleeping. Maybe she's praying. So I left it alone. But then I hear, "Help me." And so at first I was just like, no, she didn't say that. Like, why would she say that if she knows that I'm at her bedside? And then she was just like, "Help me, help me." So I jumped up and I threw the light on, like, what's wrong? Y'all, she wasn't even awake. She wasn't even awake. So then fast forward, I'm like trying to get her up, like trying to wake her up. I'm tapping her. I'm asking her if she's okay. Her eyes are still closed. And so then I got the nurse to come in there, her nurse. And when he came in there, he was just like, you know, trying to get her up, do the same thing I was doing. So finally, she like looked over at him and opened her eyes. And she was just like, "I'm trying to get to sleep." He was like, "Okay." Like, he didn't want no arguments. He like, "Okay." And he left out, turned the lights back out. I sit back down. And when I sat back down, I could see somebody sitting on her bed. Okay? Sitting on her bed while she's sleeping. This is what I be saying when I say, when y'all be like, "Oh, I wish that I had the gift that you had." No, you don't. I was in that room alone. Dark. Okay, it was dark. So then I turned around and I just had my flashlight on my phone on the entire time. Because, no, and don't come over here neither. Don't come over here. And so it stood up. It never turned around to face me. It sat on her bed the entire, like, it was probably like 15 to 20 minutes. I don't know. It wasn't that long though. But it never turned towards me to face me. But it still scared me because why is you even in here? And you obviously doing something to this lady. You know, she's already struggling mentally, and y'all know that patients like that and people like that are a target, right? Because they're considered weak. Okay? So I was in the corner praying. And I'm like praying, because baby, you not coming home with me, okay? And you not about to come over here bothering me. And I really want you to get out this room. Soon as I started praying, it's like it went into supersonic fast mode. When I say like ran so fast that I didn't even see it leave the room, but I saw it stand up, running towards the door. Insane. Like, I see some scary stuff, man, but that scared me last night. It scared me. Scared the heck out of me.
I wanted to share some weird paranormal experiences that happened to me because for some reason, weird events keep happening and have been since my childhood. So I'll share a few today. 2 of these take place in Illinois at my old apartment that I shared with my ex-boyfriend. So we were on the 2nd floor. It's a very small apartment complex. A lot of college students there. And there's this road I always like to drive around with my ex because there's not a lot of things to do in Illinois besides drive around at night. And it's already a creepy road as it is. It's very long, it's windy, it's in the middle of a cornfield, so it's super, super dark. And then you also factor in that 2 women's bodies have been found on that road in the past few years. Really adds to like a very dreadful ambiance, to be honest. However, I never felt like my safety was at risk until this night. So my ex and I are driving when suddenly I start getting kind of a weird gut feeling that we shouldn't be there. And then I hear a man's voice in the back of my head say, "Turn around, now." And it was very commanding, and it was so vivid. And I will admit that I have a lot of things wrong with my brain. However, hearing voices, not one of them. So I turn to my ex and I go, "Hey, we need to turn around, like something's not right here." And he's like, "Oh yeah, you gotta drive up here and then you can pull around there and turn back." Then I hear the man's voice again, and it's very clear, and he's very angry with me. And he goes, "Get the fuck out now." And it almost sounded like someone was behind me. It's not like the internal monologue you hear in your head sometimes. It was very much like almost over my shoulder, someone is directly yelling at me. So I just haul ass. I pull such an illegal turn, and I'm speeding back down the road. I'm covered in goosebumps, like I'm sweating. And the further we go back down the road closer to our home, the better I feel. Until our house gets haunted. It started with things going bump in the night. Like, it sounded like people were running around our living room. And it was always when my boyfriend at the time was asleep, so he never heard it. But it was very clearly in our living room. The way our apartments were set up, we didn't have next door neighbors, we didn't have upstairs neighbors, we only had downstairs neighbors, and it was a really good soundproofed apartment. Like, I will give them props for that. We never heard anything going on downstairs ever. Very clearly our apartment floor. I would wake up in the middle of the night to loud crashes, and I would go out and see things on the refrigerator, like bottles of vodka, or things on the shelves that shouldn't be able to be moved, just thrown on the ground or fallen. Like, someone intentionally would have had to push those or move those, but the only people living there were me and my ex, so we were not doing that. I feel like my ex thought I was starting to lose my mind a little bit, until the one day he witnessed with his own eyes something happened. So things had been going missing around the apartment for a while at that point. And I am kind of klutzy. I lose things a lot, so I thought, oh, maybe that's what it is. They would always turn up in places where I knew I had already looked. But I'm like, oh, sometimes I have lapses in judgment, whatever. One day I can't find my freaking vape, which is a very common occurrence with me. I'm throwing things off the bed, I pick up my phone, I look under my phone on the bed, there's nothing there, I put it back down, so I recruit my ex to come try to find my vape. And this is back when the vapes were really clunky, like if you remember the Hyde bars. So he's helping me look. He also picks up my phone and puts my phone down in the exact same spot. And then we can't find it. So I go again, I pick up my phone to maybe turn on my flashlight or something. There's my vape, right under the phone, after both of us have already picked up the phone multiple times to look under it. I think that's the point where my ex was like, oh, okay, like that's really, really weird. We already looked there. Like, this isn't just in my head. There was someone actually confirming this was happening. Long story short, I recruit my witchy friends and we took care of the problem. And then we didn't have an issue with that apartment anymore. However, there was another situation that happened in that same area around the same time. So we're driving around dirt roads again, trying to find something to do, and there's like a crusty bridge that you can cross with your car, and we were kind of dying to know what is across that bridge. So we drive over the bridge, and I start getting the feeling like we can't be here, like something is awry, and the road kind of disappears. It turns into like dust. If you've ever been on a country road, you know how it just kind of randomly disappears on you there. And it's just like a barn and some trees and a big field. And I tell my boyfriend at the time, I'm like, hey, something is wrong. I need to turn around. Also, I have a Kia. There's no way I can like off-road this. So as I'm starting to put my car into like reverse, my headlights catch a man. And the man is wearing a white shirt. He's wearing light blue jeans. And he does not have a face. And he is stumbling towards our car at a really high rate of speed. I'm literally getting like goosebumps and cold chills thinking about this. But when I say he doesn't have a face, think of like when you take a photo with flash and it's way too overexposed and the person's features completely disappear. That is the best way I could describe it. It's not like there was something wrong with his face was just not there. And he is stumbling and he is moving extremely fast in a way that's very not human. And my ex doesn't see him, but he sees my face and he's like, go. And I whip it and we get out of that situation. And to this day, I do not know what I saw right there. Flash forward a couple years, I moved back to St. Louis. Me and my ex split up, so I'm living in a new apartment with my former roommate. And it's a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment on the ground floor. We're both women living there. I have the main bedroom, so I have the patio door right next to my bed. I come home from work and I go to plug in my phone, as everyone does ever, and I realize my charger is plugged into the extension cord on the floor. Now, I had one of those lamps where you can just plug your phone charger right into the lamp. And I've used that for years. I've never once plugged my phone in to an outlet or anywhere else besides that lamp. And I got a cold sweat. I realized someone's been in my house. I get up and I check the patio door because that would be the easiest access point. And it's locked. And there's no like glass shattered or anything. I would have noticed that by the time I came in. So I immediately just leave my apartment. Something's telling me I need to get out right now. And I call my dad. My dad drives over and my roommate okays me looking in her room to see if anything was stolen. Nothing is stolen. The living room TV is still there. My roommate had like a PlayStation and some nice gadgets in her room. Nothing is touched in her room. I look throughout my room and I realize my closet has been sifted through. So at this point, I call the management office. And I was really chill with the two property managers. And I say, hey, has maintenance been in my house? It looks like my house has been accessed when I was away. And they say, oh no, like nobody's been in there. They would have had to go through us to get the keys anyway. So then I asked them to look at the security cameras because they have security cameras pointing at each like parking lot by the building, and you would have been able to see if someone walked back to get into my house by there. The camera was down that day. It was the only day that camera was down. It wasn't down the next day or the day before. And after that, weird stuff started happening around the apartment. I started hearing people like running around my apartment. Same shit with things falling off of places they should not be falling, or you would have had to manually exert effort to knock these things off. It got to the point where I was so scared to be alone, and my roommate and I worked separate schedules, so she worked nights and I worked days, that she set up a Ring camera to monitor our interior living room to see if anyone would be coming into the house. We never caught anything, and I just decided to do like a cleansing thing that I had to do in my last apartment, and after that, never had any issues. So yeah, there are a lot of tales that I've accumulated throughout the years, including a portal in my childhood home, whatever. But those were the most recent ones that are just like the creepiest in my mind because they happened so recently. So yeah.
So I have a spooky story for you, and this one's coming out of Eastern Tennessee, which means we're in Appalachia. So it's the 1950s, and our submitter has a friend named Lynn, and Lynn is infatuated with this boy who lives in their town. She's been in love with him for like the last 2 years, and at the time of the story, they're about 16 and 17 years old, respectively. Now, this boy is a bit of a womanizer. All of the girls in their age group like him. He's popular with the guys, and he's generally well-liked around this town. But for Lynn, this is something else entirely. She hasn't been able to stop thinking about him once over the last 2 years. In fact, she starts imagining a future with him. The only problem is, This guy never notices her, and when he does pass her in the streets, he pays her no mind, and that's kind of a problem for Lynn. So one day Lynn is talking to her friend, the submitter, and they're talking about any and everything when the topic of the boy comes up. So Lynn is musing to her friend about the future that she sees them having together and the kids that they'll make and how pretty they'll be, yada yada. And the friend's like, hey, all of that sounds fine and dandy, but this guy doesn't even notice you, so how is that gonna happen? So Lynn's disposition changes a little bit and she's looking a little dejected. Her friend tries to cheer her up and say that there are plenty of other guys who would love to be with her, but Lynn's not really having it because, again, she wants this guy. So Lynn's friend turns to her and says, why don't you ask your grandma to help you? So Lynn is like, no, I don't want to do that. She doesn't really do that kind of stuff for the family. And her friend tries to encourage her to do it by saying nothing beats a failure but a try. And so Lynn decides that maybe she'll mull it over. And if she decides to do it, she'll definitely go see her grandmother to see if her grandmother can help in these pursuits. So they end the night, her friend goes home, and the next day she goes to see her grandmother. Now in this area, Lynn's grandmother is pretty famously known for being a witch. Now the grandmother, along with a number of other people in this town, do not refer to her as such, but for the other half who are skeptical and or disrespectful, they call her a witch. But whatever the case, she was very good at what she does, has no shortage of customers, and she's in pretty high demand for those things that are a little more difficult to fix. So now her grandmother would never call what she does witchcraft, but she does refer to it periodically as conjure, root work. That time she'll refer to it as holler trickery or holler magic, but the gist is still the same. She has an ability to do things that others cannot, to include love spells, which is why Lynn shows up at her doorstep this one day. So as soon as Lynn's grandmother opens the door and sees her standing there, she gets straight to the point. Are you here about that boy? Of course, Lynn can't get anything past her grandmother, and she admits that yes, she is. So her grandmother invites her in, and she gets straight to the point. She tells her, I can't do anything except sweeten him to you. Now, Lynn's face drops because she's hoping her grandmother can do more. She's seen her grandmother do more. She's seen her make women become faithful, husbands stop beating their wives, and she knows for a fact she's seen her bring two people together. So why in this situation was she any different? Why couldn't she help her the way she helps literally everybody else? So obviously Lynn was really upset with her grandmother. And sensing this anger, Lynn's grandmother again straight up told her that she hadn't done enough living to know what she wanted, that this boy is absolutely no good, and that love would find her in a few years if she was patient enough to wait for it. But Lynn wasn't hearing any of it. She stormed out of her granny's house and decided she would take matters into her own hands. And why not? She had watched her grandmother do those things she does thousands of times. It shouldn't be hard to replicate. So the next day, Lynn got to work. She ran over to her grandma's house while she was out, stole some supplies, went back to her house and got busy. She went outside, grabbed a couple of herbs that she thought she would need, raided the kitchen for the rest, and went upstairs to her room. She did all of the things she saw her granny do 1,000 times before and didn't think twice about it. She also took some extra steps. She took off her undergarments and did something special with that. She lit 2 candles, tied them together, created a binding spell. She created a jar and slid it underneath her bed. She even slept with herbs under her pillows. Anything that would help her in this pursuit of this boy she was so in love with. Did you know what happened? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Until about 7 or 8 months later, he started showing up in places she would be. And at first she thought it was a coincidence, but then it seemed more intentional. And then a little while after that, would you believe that she actually got the guy? Everything she wanted, she got. The spells, plural, must have worked. But then things started to change slowly over time. At first, he got more controlling. Then she couldn't hang out with her friends. And then the day came where he put his hands on her, slapped her right across the face, bruised her cheek. He then wanted to get married, but at this time, she started to lose interest in him for a number of different reasons. He didn't really want to do anything with his life. He was always trying to control her. She had also started to fall in love with somebody else, but he couldn't let her go, and she couldn't understand why. One night, things came to a head when he showed up at her house in the middle of the night, but this time with a friend. He threatened her that if she didn't come outside, he would have her entire family killed. A part of her knew that he meant it, and so not wanting that to happen, she pleaded with him that she would meet him tomorrow if he would just leave. And he agreed, but under the condition that she keep her word. Now, the next day before Lynn is supposed to meet her boyfriend, she goes over to her grandmother's house to explain what's happening and see if she can help her. Unfortunately, her grandmother had to tell her that because she has no idea what she had done, she can't help her undo it, and certain things have staying power, and that's why you avoid them in the first place. So Lynn left her grandmother's house terrified. She didn't know who she could turn to, what else she could do, and she knew that if she didn't show up when she said she would, that her boyfriend would likely keep his promise on his threat. So Lynn showed up to the spot her and her boyfriend typically met. And unfortunately, this would be the last time the submitter would see or hear from Lynn, because a couple of months later, her body was found 2 counties over, bloated and left in the hot summer sun. Lynn had been unalived by her boyfriend. Now, the submitter thinks that all of it had to do with Lynn's love spells gone wrong, but it can't be proven. Maybe the boyfriend was just an obsessive asshole. But the submitter reasons that the grandmother knew all along, and one of the things she told Lynn before even attempting what she did, that the boy was absolutely no good, and yet Lynn wanted to have him. She needed to have him so bad. She ignored everything. And one of the saddest things the submitter told me is that when she's back visiting her hometown, periodically she'll drive past Lynn's old house and she'll see her walking around out there, and she knows she's long gone. So it's just unsettling overall, but I want to know what you guys are thinking. Could the boyfriend have just been an asshole with a mean streak all along? Could it have been Lynn's love spell gone wrong?
It's Out of This World Wednesday, and tonight we're going to read a Reddit no sleep story called I Know Where Black-Eyed Children Come From. This one is a little long, so y'all get comfortable, maybe turn a light on. It's going to be creepy. Just a warning beforehand. At the top here it says, think about it before continuing. They say black-eyed kids only come if you know about them. With that being said, let's begin. When I was a kid, my little brother and I visited my grandparents' house in Tahlequah, Oklahoma every summer. It was a pretty boring town. As the capital of the Cherokee Nation, most recreational activities were related to the culture and history of the Cherokees. The last summer we spent there, I was 11, that age between wanting so badly to be seen as a teenager but still finding enjoyment in brat stalls. My brother was 8 and wouldn't settle down unless he had his Nintendo DS. I didn't dread visiting my grandparents like many children do. Other than the cultural shock that came from leaving our home in LA to the relatively small Oklahoma town, I loved spending time with my grandparents, and so did my brother. They spoiled us with toys and ice cream. On a Thursday afternoon, my little brother and I were playing at the elementary school across the street from my grandparents' house. If you've ever been to Oklahoma, you probably know how quickly the weather can change. It's not uncommon for it to snow one day and be in the 70s the next day. This day went from sunny to cloudy extremely quick. It didn't begin raining or lightning, so my brother and I continued to play, but these weren't normal clouds. They looked heavier and thicker. They were almost black. I'm still not sure if the clouds were some sort of warning for what was about to happen, or I'm just trying to connect things. A girl who was probably 9 or 10 showed up at some point. She didn't have parents with her, but it was a fairly safe town and not uncommon for kids to walk around. She introduced herself as Allie. She was blonde and blue-eyed, but began enlightening us with old Cherokee ghost tales. With Tahlequah being the capital of the Cherokee Nation, many urban legends in other towns are actually true in Tahlequah. Most people's great-great-grandmas really were Cherokees, and the school playground we were currently playing on really had once been an Indian burial ground. She told us one particular grotesque story about the deer lady, who was a heartbroken woman that went insane and cut her legs off and stitched a deer's legs on her torso in place. Her final story inspired what we thought would be a fun adventure. She told us a chief's 15-year-old daughter had been brutally murdered by her white husband on their anniversary for flirting with another man. They buried her, and out of respect, never removed her gravestone when the school was built. Allie told us it would take a bit of maneuvering, but there was a panel that could be removed and we could crawl underneath the skull and see the gravestone. We were all in shape, so we began our adventure. To our disappointment, the panel had been screwed shut and it began to rain. My brother and I decided to go home. Allie, however, insisted that there had to be another way in. I tried to tell her that her parents would probably be worried and that it would be best for her to go home too, but she was determined to find a way in. My brother and I went into my grandparents' house and changed into some dry clothes, drank Kool-Aid, and watched TV. While my brother and grandparents were watching The Fairly Odd Parents, I noticed I could still see Allie, drenched in rain, trying to find a way underneath the school from the living room window. Eventually, she did. I watched her crawl in, but I never saw her crawl out. We sat through an entire episode of The Fairly Odd Parents and a half an episode of Drake and Josh, so it had to have been 45 minutes. That night, I had trouble sleeping. I told myself she had to have come out a different way, or maybe she came out when I wasn't looking and finally drifted off. The next morning, I woke up refreshed. I was certain Allie had found a way out. My grandparents took us to the carnival and then to Brahms, the local ice cream shop. It was 6 o'clock in the evening when we got home, and my grandma began cooking supper while my grandpa took a nap. My brother and I were kids, though, and still had lots of energy left. So we went across the street to play some more, and our grandma told us she would call us when supper was ready. I told my little brother that I'd seen Allie go underneath the school, and I asked him if he was up for an adventure. He agreed, and I went to the panel that I saw Allie loosen. I loosened and crawled underneath the school, and my brother followed. The remaining daylight flooded into the basement along with us, providing us with just enough light to see things directly in front of us. The ground was cold, wet dirt, and there were many pipes and old basketballs to crawl around. I immediately spotted 8 to 10 headstones, though. The first one was directly to the right of my brother and I, but the name was too faded to read. I was feeling kind of creeped out that Allie had been right and we were crawling over a bunch of dead bodies. I probably would have left, but my brother didn't seem afraid at all, and I wanted to seem braver than him. So I crawled to the next stone. This one read Andrew Cummings and had a birthday of 1890 and a death date of 1902. There was one to the left of it that read Allison Cummings and had a birthday of 1893 and a death date of 1902 also. This freaked me out even more and made me think of Allie, who had the same name and looked about the same age as the dead girl several feet below me. My brother suddenly shouted, "Look, something in the corner just moved." Before I could tell him that we should leave immediately, he shoved me out of the way and began crawling incredibly fast to the corner furthest from us. I could clearly see a couple of large figures moving, but couldn't make out much else. "They're probably just dogs. Let's go," I told him. But as he crawled, I crawled right behind him, getting closer and closer to the larger figures that began to look more and more like silhouettes of 3 people sitting against a wall, all with their knees to their chests. When they came into clear view, my brother turned around and crawled underneath me. I held him close to my chest. We were both terrified. The first girl was clearly Allie, except she didn't look as lively as she had looked yesterday. She wasn't smiling and her hair was stringy. Next to her was a boy who looked close in age to me and had no hair at all. He wasn't smiling either. Then there was a girl who looked more normal than Allie or the boy. Her skin was dark and her hair was so long it bunched up at the ground. She looked like she was about 16, but her facial expression was the scariest. It was one of absolute despair. The scariest part about all of them, though, was their eyes. I could see my brother's eyes glowing, but none of their eyes glowed. It didn't even really look like they had eyes, just pits of darkness. Allie smiled and said, "Thank God you guys came." The other 2 laughed. "Yeah, well, we're going to be leaving now," I said, trying my hardest to sound casual and not scared. All 3 laughed, and the other girl spoke up. "No, you're not." Her voice had a confidence that mine didn't. I pushed my brother in the direction we came in, and he began quickly crawling away. I heard my grandma calling out to us and called out to her to help us. All 3 of them suddenly stopped laughing. Allie suddenly looked scared and said, "Leave right now and never tell us so you saw us. You got lucky." We didn't have to be told twice and quickly crawled out. At dinner that night, my brother and I chalked up our silence to it having been a long day and us being tired. We never played at the playground across the street again and rarely talked about the incident. 5 months after we left, my grandparents were murdered in their own home. A neighbor had said she had seen my grandma let 3 children into their home the day of the murder. A bald boy, a blonde girl, and a dark-haired girl. Cops were never able to find any leads and the case was eventually closed. Neither my brother nor I plan to visit Tahlequah or even Oklahoma ever again. But I know that doesn't matter. I'm certain that one day they'll show up on my step too. I know I'll tell them to go away, and I can only hope that will be enough. That was Out of This World Wednesday. Last week was Demon Aliens? Something demonic in space. Anyways, and this week was Black-Eyed Children. Next week, you just never know. Maybe do mermaids. Maybe do flesh pedestrians, duendes. If y'all have any crazy, spooky, wild, or even just like stalker stories, y'all go ahead and submit them to the email in my bio. On Fridays, I'm going to be reading follower stories as soon as I get some submitted. But if you come back tomorrow, it's going to be Thirsty Thursdays, which is our stalker story night. So if you're interested in stuff like this, y'all go ahead and give me a follow. In the meantime, hope y'all come back tomorrow. I hope y'all enjoyed that, and I hope you have a good night.
So it is 3 a.m. I'm in my lunchtime right now. And I thought I'd hop on here and tell you guys a quick story. We were just talking about, like, paranormal stuff. I work in a hospital, so, a lot of, craziness happens in hospitals at nighttime. So, so about 15 years ago, I was 3 months pregnant, and I had a little 4-year-old son. And we moved upstairs to an apartment upstairs. It was a 3-bedroom apartment. It was my mom, my dad, my little sister, and my brother, and then me and my baby boy. And we moved up there, with time. We started talking to the neighbors. And one day she invited us over to a birthday party she was having for her kid. And as we were just chit-chatting and talking, she just says, "Oh, my God, I thank God, you guys moved up there." And in my brain, I was just like, why is she saying, like, thank God that you guys moved up there? Because she didn't really know us. So we didn't really conversate, nothing. So it's not like, oh, my God, you guys are, like, amazing, blah, 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 blah. Didn't do her favors, nothing. So it was just a little weird how she was like, "Oh, I'm happy that you guys, moved up here." And I was like, okay. So then she starts saying that she would hear noises upstairs, or like people dragging chairs, like banging noises, cabinets closing. So she would have to call the maintenance person to come and check it out, because she thought that people would like go into the apartment like through the window, and they were just like up there. And I was like, excuse the fuck out of me. I did not need to know this, ma'am. But before she had said that, I had already like experienced weird shit in there because my dad, he's very habitual. So he wakes up, you know, puts water for his coffee, like he gets the mug, and like the little noises, everything, like how it, the little ticking sound from the stove, how he gets the spoon to stir the coffee, everything. And then after I would hear him leave, like close the door and like actually leave, I would hear those same things happen again, like if he was still there making the coffee all over again. So I mean, I kind of just wanted to like shake it off and not really think about it, I guess. But when she said that, it just like, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going fucking crazy. So one day, my son it was just me and him in the house. My dad and my mom weren't there. My brother, I don't know where they went. Can't remember if they went to the store. The point is, it was just me and him. And, he was playing, and I said, hey, Chris, it's time to, do your homework. You got to do your homework. He's like, oh, I don't want to do my homework, Mom. I don't want to do it. I was like, I'm sorry, buddy. Like, he was in kindergarten. Just do your homework. Get it done and over with. Come on, let's do this. And again, I was pregnant, so I was just like laying down, trying to rest. And I'm like not facing the door. So then all of a sudden I feel like somebody's like hopping onto the bed, like to crawl in to like snuggle up. And I thought it was Chris. So I said, buddy, did you finish your homework? And as I said that, I turned around to like try to hug him, and nobody was fucking there. Like, it was like nobody was there. I said, oh, hell to the fuck no. I got up, I grabbed my child, I walked out to the front, I closed the door, and we waited in the stairs for my mom and my dad to get home because I was not gonna go in there. What the fuck? Like, I felt like laying down right there next to me. I don't know what the fuck it was. I didn't want to find out. I said, hell no, not doing this. Bye. So then I just grabbed my kid and we were waiting outside. It was just, and that's how everything started. Like from then on, it kind of started going downhill. So, but yeah, that was just a little, kind of like a little story that we were talking about. So yeah, I don't know what it was. I don't think I ever want to find out. I don't want to know. So, I mean, it was a while back, but yeah, no, thank you. I'm okay.
I'm here to give you your fix. It's story time. And in 3, 2, 1, cue the actual intro.
It's story time. Story time. Paranormal Chicago activity.
I absolutely love my followers. Thank you so much for making that for me. I love it. Today's story time is about the Iroquois Theater. Well, now known as the James James Needler Theater. It's in downtown Chicago. Y'all, that place haunted as fuck. When I say trap souls, try 600 of them. Picture this, the Iroquois Theater, thriving, beautiful, housing all of the best plays, all of the best. And then one day, a fire happened. And not just any normal fire. No, this fire literally took over this whole entire theater in the blink of an eye. And this fire happened while they was actually doing a production. Like, it's people in the audience. 600 of those people died in that fire because they could not get out of the building. Like, could you imagine seeing a fire take over your theater and you trying to get out, but you can't open up the door? Back then, safety regulations wasn't shit. They wasn't shit. Whoever thought to have a fire door or an escape door to open inward instead of going out was not smart. Because that's exactly why they got pinned. Like, if you have to pull a door open and you got a massive crowd behind you pushing towards the door, you ain't gonna be able to pull the door open. Everybody panic. Ain't nobody trying to listen to no logic. They just want to get the fuck out. And then who builds exits that lead to nowhere? Like, why does the door say exit? You go down the stairs and around the corner and it's a brick wall. That just sound like y'all wanted this shit to happen. So yeah, it's a whole lot of trap souls that are in the Iroquois Theater, which is now the Needler
theater. I had the unfortunate event of meeting two of these women who perished in this theater. When I was a kid, I always said that my mama and my grandma was magic because somehow, some way, they was always able to make a way out of absolutely nothing. And they got me exposure to so many different things. Like, I am so grateful for my mama and my grandma Minnie. My grandma Minnie had a friend who was heavy into anything theater. Her name was Jello. A lot of people didn't understand why my grandma and Jello was so close with each other, and it was because Jello is a transgender woman. I met all kind of people because of Jello, but again, this one particular time we are going to this place. And as we're walking up to the building, I got cold. Like, every part of me is freezing. I'm so cold that my fingers are turning blue. Jello looked down and looked at me because my hand is in her hand, and she feels ice in her hand. She, what the fuck is going on? What's wrong? And I'm like, I don't think this place like me. She looked me in the eye, and was like, okay. She put her hand over my eye and started praying. The willies went away momentarily. We get into the theater, and instead of going to our seats, of course, Jello is the shit, so she know the person who was actually in the play. We going to the back room. And I wish we didn't. Because what was once ice is now fire. I am hot. I'm burning up. I'm talking about sweating. Jello look at me. She said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm just hot." She said, "It is kind of warm in here." I'm like, I don't like this kind of hot though. I am so uncomfortable. Her friend looked at me and instantly was like, "Oh, she's special." I looked at her. She looked at Jello. Jello looked at me. I'm looking at Jello. I said, "I don't like this. Can we start this and get that one up out of here, please?" The lady said, "If the feeling gets worse, tell Jello it's bingo time." She said, "As soon as you say those words, somebody will be at your section to get you and Jello out as fast as possible." What the fuck we gotta get out as fast as possible for? I don't like this. I'm sitting in the hallway waiting for Jello to come out of the dressing room, and I hear a lady crying. I walk around the corner. It's a door right there. I go through the door and I see stairs, but now the crying is even louder. If it's somebody down here hurt, I can't help but to go and help them. So yeah, I went and followed. This woman is sitting on the floor. She has on a navy blue dress with gray trimming and details all around. The skirt is super long. Like, it's so long and so poofy that she looks like she's sitting in a cupcake. The bodice of the dress is like, baby, the corset is corseting. High collar with ruffles coming all down her sleeve. Pretty white gloves and a cute little hat sitting on top of her head with a little blue quill. I'm looking at a full-blown white woman out of the early 1900s. And when I say that she meet every qualification of a white woman out of the 1900s, like, she is sitting there and her hands is dainty over her face and like it's like something out of a fucking movie. I say, "Hi, are you okay?" She look up at me and she says, "No, I've been trapped here. I want to go home." I said, "Well, why you can't go home?" She says, "Because of a man. It was because of a man. I can't. It was because of a man. He left me. How could he do this?" Her voice got a little demonic on the end. I said, "Ma'am, what did he do?" She said, "He left me here to burn. He left me to burn." Ooh. I shouldn't have brought my black ass down here. Jello told me to sit still and not move. Bitch, why you move? Why you move? I don't know why my mouth got to moving, because out of nowhere, I was like, "Well, how did he leave you? What happened?" And she said there was a fire. The fire, it took over everything. The curtain came down and he ran. He ran the opposite direction. He didn't come back for me. I was stuck. And then, y'all, her dress. The craziest shit. You know how it look when fabric or paper get the burning and it like it's slowly turning into an ember? Oh, she is saying, "I hate him. I hate him. He left me. He did this to me. He took my..." Over and over and over. The more she is saying these words, her dress, her hat, her hair, her gloves, everything is burnt. She look at me and say, you can get me. Ma'am? What? How? "Just give me your body." Hell to the no. I need this body. You tripping. Nah, Mrs. Burning Lady is turning into the motherfucking Grudge because she is crawling on her hands and her neck is contorted. I'm freaking the fuck. release me, give me your body, over and over and over and over again. The more she said, the more demonic. Oh, bitch, cue in the mantras, cause you done fucked up, I take off back up the stairs. I can hear her crawling after me, baby. I am bawling my ass off. I bust through the door. Jello standing in the hallway screaming my name. She look at me, she look at the door, she slammed the door. Jello say, didn't I tell you not to go no damn well? I was like, well, I heard somebody crying. I thought I'm sorry. Jello friend standing there. She said, you heard a lady crying. Where you hear the lady crying? Where you just come from, Katie did? I show her where I came from. She looked over where I was pointing at. First and foremost, apparently the door ain't always there. The door just around here popping up wherever the fuck it want to. Her and Jello doing root work over the door. They pushed me into the fitting room while they doing the root work because apparently whatever the fuck was on the other side of the door was saying my name. Talking about she need the Star Child's body. Absolutely the fuck not. They blessed me one more time. And then they called in somebody from the audience to come and bless the whole theater. Because apparently the Star Child being in the damn theater is generating too much energy. And I mean, I can't control that. I can't. I radiate energy. I radiate so much energy that apparently I got the eyes of a vampire looking down on me. That's the next story.
Friends, it is time for another spooky story. I was going to share this story outside like we usually do on the porch, but we're getting our first snowstorm, so my big back is going in the house. I am Autumn in Appalachia. If you have a spooky story of your own that you would like to share, feel free to send me a DM. Make sure as well to add me on Facebook, same handle, Autumn in Appalachia. Without further ado. This story comes from Karma. She will be tagged in this video. She said one of her biggest fears with sharing this story is that nobody will believe her because she knows how unbelievable all of this sounds, but it is a real thing that she and her family really experienced, and it's something that Karma, in fact, is actively still experiencing today. Karma's mom sadly passed away in 2022 due to some underlying health issues that were never on their radar. A couple years prior to her passing, though, her mom noticed an energy change in their home. They all noticed it, and they didn't know why or how it happened. It just kind of suddenly became a reality in their world, and they could not help take note of it. Karma said that oftentimes when they would walk through the home, it was just that heavy, oppressive, dark, molasses type of feel to the air around them, like everything is just weighed down and bogged down. One night, Karma is in her drag room. She's sewing a costume when suddenly her mom screams, this blood-curdling scream from her bedroom. She screams Karma's name, and so Karma responds, gets up, runs into her mom's bedroom. She's like, what's wrong? Her mom is visibly shaken, and she explains that she was sitting in bed, and she saw this tall, dark shadow man exit the bathroom door and walk right past her bedroom door. Karma doesn't really know what to make of this. She tries just to, because they'd never seen or experienced anything like this before, calm her mom down. She's like, you're probably just tired, try to get some rest. And so after a few minutes of reassuring her, Karma and her mom go back to doing what they were doing. About 20 minutes later, though, she again hears her mom scream, this like very panicked, guttural type of scream, and she gets up, runs back to her mom's bedroom. Her mom begins explaining that this time she saw this shadow man walk past the door again into the bathroom. As her mom is explaining this, Karma is standing in the doorway of the bedroom, and she suddenly feels the presence of somebody standing or walking behind her. Now, it's important to note that her dad was the only other person that lived in the house, and he was outside. They both knew he was outside, so it was not him. As Karma feels this presence behind her, she slowly turns her head, and down this dark hallway, she sees this shadow man just darting down the hallway full speed. Chills cover her entire body. She feels sick at her stomach. She cannot believe what she just saw. She walks into the mom's bedroom, closes the door, and stays in there with her mom for a few hours, trying to calm her down, trying to calm herself down, because they're both petrified. So a week goes by. It's almost enough time for them to like put it out of their mind, forget about it. One night, Karma is getting ready for a show when she again hears her mom scream. Now, this time when Karma gets up to run toward her mom, she remembers smelling this like very putrid, horrible smell. She now knows that that could potentially be a sign of demonic activity. Regardless, she's running toward the room. When she gets there, her mom explains that this time she sees something crawl across the ceiling, and when it gets to the doorway of the bedroom, it tilted its head so it could look in the bedroom at her mom before continuing crawling across the ceiling toward the bathroom. This absolutely disturbed them both. And this continued happening for months. As the months went on, her mom seemed to get physically sicker. It was like whatever this was seemed to be feeding off of her, feeding off of like her vulnerability or her energy, something. Then her mom started complaining that she was seeing tarantulas on her fan, like in her room, and Karma didn't know what to make of this, but when her mom would see it, she'd get up, flip the lights on, and nothing would be there. So this continued until one night, Karma is in her mom's room with her. The lights are off. They're watching TV, and Karma sees something crawling across the cable box. She zones in with her eyes, and she sees a tarantula. Now, she is like doing a double take, like blinking, like, I cannot really be seeing what I am seeing, but she said that the little screen where the time is displayed on the cable box, the tarantula went to crawl over that, and you could actually see like the highlighted words disappear. Like something is physically there and it is blocking out the light that is coming from the cable box screen. So this, of course, weirds her out. She jumps up in a split second, flips the lights on, and nothing is there on the cable box. Now, again, just to reiterate, Karma knows how crazy this all sounds, but this is something that really happened to them. She can't explain it. And something that I also took note of, just the way that she told the story is, you know, when her mom first began having these experiences, Karma tried to pass it off like you're just tired, you know, or like you just need some rest. And it's almost like whatever this energy was, since that Karma was like doubting or maybe not fully comprehending what was going on. And so it's like, all right, you don't believe, I'll show you too. So these experiences continued to happen. Her mom's health continued to decline, and eventually her mom was hospitalized. A month into her mom's hospital stay, she sadly passed away. Karma's dad passed away last year. And so now Karma and her brother are both living in that home by themselves. Karma is still having the same experiences. She's seeing the same things that her mom saw, and she does not know how to cope with it, so she is trying to ignore it, but she said it just seems to be getting worse. She actually very recently had a nightmare where some sort of creature, she said that the last thing she remembers this creature saying was, "You're next." And she woke up. And she doesn't know what to do. She has tried everything, and she feels like that this energy is now out to get her, or like trying to feed off of her, and she doesn't know if it is just attached to the house, if it is preying, something that like preys off of vulnerability or pain, and I do believe there are negative energies out there sometimes if we're already in like a vulnerable state of sorts that will like prey on that. That is something I've experienced myself. Although it was years ago, I know it's real. I know there are things out there that do that. And so that's the story. I've said this in other stories. There's just not closure there. It is an active and an ongoing thing for Karma. And I, just like I told her in DM, sending her all of my light, my love, warmth, a cup of coffee, and a hug. If anybody has ever gone through something like this, if you have any advice for her in the comments, any encouragement or kindness to pass her way, I'm sure she would be appreciative. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you we'll be at 12,000 followers soon. Stay tuned for some more spooky stories.
Someone sent me this ghost story, so I thought I would share it with you. They told me not to use their name, but they said I could still share it. So basically, we'll call her Jane. Her and her family just moved into this old rental house, like built in the late 1800s old. It was nothing special, nothing fancy. It was just one of those, creaky houses and echoed. Okay. And at the end of the hall, there was this tall antique mirror that was built into the wall, and the landlord told them, do not touch it. And it was original to the house. The first few nights were totally fine, totally normal. But then they would always start to wake up at 3:17 every single morning. And every single time they got up, the mirror would be fogged. Almost like someone was breathing on the mirror. So then one night, she decided to take a photo just to prove that, she wasn't crazy and she wasn't seeing things. So she turned off all the lights, took a picture with the flash, and in the reflection, behind them was someone standing down the hallway. It was this like black shadowy figure, and it was not moving, just staring at them. Just like facing the mirror, dead staring at them. She deleted the picture immediately and like freaked out. And then the next night at the same time, 3:17 a.m., the same photo had reappeared in her camera roll. I mean, Jane was so scared that she literally moved out a week later. She's like, I'm not doing this, I'm moving out. And then so when the landlord came to get the keys, he said, you didn't cover the mirror, did you? And she said, no, and nodded, and he was relieved. So apparently the mirror has been there since the original owner's wife died in that hallway, and she died at 3:17 p.m. She told me that she still wakes up at that time, like often, like pretty often. And even though they moved across the country, got rid of their phone, new number, new house, everything, like there was nothing attached to them, there was still the photo in their camera roll. It would just keep appearing. And she told me to share this because she doesn't know what to do, and she just wants to know like what she can do to get rid of this or stop this. So if you can help, please help.
Okay, so let me tell you guys about the one and only time that I ever played with a Ouija board. What's up, guys? My name is Jason, and I tell my ghost stories online. So if you're into ghost stories, do me a favor, give me a follow, because I tell them all the time. So this story starts out when I'm about 9 or 10. Obviously, given all of my ghost stories, I was super interested in the paranormal growing up. So I was down for like all of the TV shows, the Ghost Adventures. I think there was like Taps. There was a handful of them that I used to watch all of them. At one point, one of the shows, I think it was Ghost Adventures, they had talked about a Ouija board, and I didn't know what that was. And so I had asked my friend at the time about it because he was also kind of interested in stuff, and mostly he would experience things through me. So it'd be if we were together, he was experiencing things, but he never really had any individualized experiences. So I had told him about this idea of like a board that you could use to like talk to the spirits. So we were both like super into it. But obviously I'm about 10 years old, and I grew up in a very like Catholic household. So my mom was not about to buy me a Ouija board. So we decided that the best thing that we could possibly do is make one. So that's what we did. We got like a scrap piece of wood. We copied a Ouija board down like to the T. Like we were like every design, every letter, like the yes, the no, the goodbye, like everything that needed to be on there was on that board. And we made a makeshift like planchette. So I'm realizing now, probably not the smartest thing in the world, but at the time I was like, it's fine. Like, it's just a board that we can use to like talk to the spirits. Like, what's so bad about that? So that's what we did. We made like a makeshift Ouija board. And then we decided that we were going to wait until night fell to finally use it. So that's what we did. We waited, and my friend at the time lived 2 doors down from me and had like this really large, like stone building in his backyard. Like it was like right along like the alley that ran behind the house, but it was like a 2-story giant, like it was almost like a barn size. But they used it for like storage and stuff. But we always heard things in there, and like it always just gave me like the creep. So we never went into there, but we figured that might be the best place to go because we're pretty sure it's already haunted. So like, let's go see. So that's what we did. We went in there after dark, in the dark. We sit down on the ground, we light a candle because we figured all good seances needed a candle. So we set the board on the ground, we put our fingers on the planchette, and we're asking questions. We're trying, is there anyone here with us? Please make your presence known, all of that stuff. However, we're not really getting a response. Like, none of it's working. So we're figuring, like, well, we tried, whatever. Then suddenly I start hearing just like a tapping on the wall. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, wait, do you hear that? Do you hear that? Like, something's happening. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't hear anything. And I was like, how do you not hear that? Like, it's so clear, but okay, whatever. So I'm like, let's give it another go. Like, okay, so we're asking questions. I'm trying to think of like new questions to ask, but I'm running out of things because we're not getting a response. So I can't say anything. What's your name? Do you live here? Like, I'm trying to get some sort of like answer from the spirits. And so suddenly I hear a really loud, like, bang, like upstairs. And I jump up because it terrified me. I was so scared. And he's like, what are you doing? Are you okay? And I'm like, no, you didn't just hear that? And he's like, no, like, what are you talking about? And I was like, no. I was like, there was definitely a noise upstairs. Like, we need to go see what that was, or we need to like get out of here. And he's like, no, it was like, I didn't hear anything. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, oh my God, of course. Okay. So then I start realizing that I'm pretty sure I'm the only one experiencing this. And so I'm like, okay, it's fine. Like, I'm trying to like, I don't know, like, make him like believe me that I'm experiencing this. But I'm like, okay, we just need to say goodbye. And he's like, no, like, it's gonna work. Like, we gotta get it to work. And so I'm like, okay. So then we put our fingers back down on the planchette, and we're like, okay, we're gonna try again. So then he's asking questions. I'm pretty sure in this situation, he was the one moving the planchette, but the planchette started moving. It suddenly was starting to like move to a letter. I was so scared in that moment. And then I look up at my friend, and I swear to you, I see this like figure standing in the corner. And I let out like the loudest yell so he could turn around and see. So I'm like, he's over there. And then he turns around. Of course, nobody's there. And all I remember are seeing like the eyes of like somebody standing in the corner. Like, they were just catching like a little bit of the highlight, the way that my eyes are, just a little bit of highlight that I could like make out that there was a figure there and two eyes. And then, like I said, it was gone. So I was like, we need to say goodbye. That's it. So we said goodbye and we got out of there. And that was the very last time that I ever messed with anything to do with a Ouija board, because I did not like the spirit that I ran into that day. And I hope that I never run into them again. I don't know if it's the same spirit that gave me my scariest ghost experience, which check out my account if you want to see that story. But I hope I never run into them again. So that was my story for tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys like ghost stories, and if you like me telling my ghost stories, do me a favor, give me a follow. Also, can you do me a favor? Can you try to do the tapping from the bottom up, the like repost and save and all of that? I would really appreciate it. I'm trying to get my account to grow, and I hear that works. So let me know if you did it in the comments, because I would love to test that theory out. So I guess I will see you guys on the next one. Night.